So, now that CES 2017 is come and gone, I've been tagged in a decent number of posts on Facebook, Twitter, all that social crap, saying, hey, have you seen this? Dude, check this out. And all of them have been referring to iBuyPower PC's Project Snowblind. And for those of you who don't know or haven't heard, Project Snowblind is a gaming PC from iBuyPower, who's a company that builds gaming PCs for people that are too lazy to do it themselves. That's just opinion, but not the subject of this video. So anyway, Project Snowblind it's kind of cool. They took an LCD panel, they made it transparent, and then made it the side window for a case. So yeah, I've seen it. It's pretty cool. Kind of neat. How cool would it have been if one of us would have, I don't know, thought of that themselves? That'd have been pretty cool, I think. Alright, so for those of you that know me, you know that I'm Mosquito, you know that this is Visible Contrast. This is a case mod that I did, 2013 I think. What I did was I took apart an old monitor. It was a USB powered, well, not really old, I guess I bought it specifically for this purpose, but I bought an old kind of AOC, I think is what brand it was, USB powered monitor, and I took it apart, took the backlight off, and then I was left with just the raw LCD panel, which I then sandwiched between two pieces of acrylic and made into my case window. And that's the result. I mean, that's all Project Snowblind is, but the difference is this one's got a custom water cooling loop and cable management. Just saying. So we'll get that stuff off of there, and as you can see, it works fine as a normal monitor. I mean, it is, you know, people that are kind of checking this out online, the Project Snowblind that is, a lot of places they're saying, you know, like, oh, that'd be really cool if you could use that as an actual monitor. You can. That's all I'm doing. I mean, this is the only monitor I have hooked up to it. It's not ideal for that. I mean, you're going to be having a tough time trying to read a lot of things, and let me tell you, if you have a light colored background or like a white window open, like Internet or Explorer, Windows Explorer or whatever, it's pretty tough to find your mouse. I mean, you know, I've got my mouse in here somewhere, and it's kind of hard to see. But anyway, with a little bit of effort, you can see it. Sometimes it kind of just requires, you know, moving your mouse till you know where it is, like up in the top corner, and then kind of slowly following it down. Like right now I can see it's right here. So if I kind of move over, I lost it. Oh, there it is. I just highlighted a video. So these are all kind of different things that I've come across while owning this computer for the last 3 years. This has been my daily driver, so it's not like I've, you know, just built this mod and then put it on a shelf and then never touched it again. I've actually used this computer probably every day I've been home. I don't know of too many days where I don't turn this thing on, but it's been great. I mean, it's worked fine for me as a computer, and the side panel window, I don't really use it as a monitor ever. Like, it's really kind of just a novelty. I mean, people are like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it's really pointless. Yeah, but look at it. It's an interesting thing that you can kind of throw on if you take it to a LAN party, or if you have guests over that are into computers or whatever. You can just put it on there and turn it on and throw a video on there of something. You know, things that are more black and white tend to work better. Just as an example, I've had a couple of videos that I've kept on here specifically for showing some of the different effects on this. So as you can see, this is just kind of some waves on water that I've taken and made just black and white, or I think there might be a little bit of grayscale in there, but it's not really anything fancy, but it definitely shows off the strong points of this monitor, and that is if you put patterns on there, stuff that's black and white, the black you can't see through at all, and then the white is just clear, because with a normal monitor you usually have the backlight, which is white, so there's white, some different reflective layers, and then a really bright, shiny, kind of glossy, reflective white background paper, at least in the one I took apart, and then it's clear through the LCD. So that's how you get your white. So that turns clear. So anything that's white, you can see into the computer case. Anything that's black, you can't see. And so messing around with that, I've put a bunch of different videos together when I was first building this, but I don't know, it's kind of fun. You can also put different things on there if you really feel like it. You know, I've done stuff like, hey look, I have an aquarium on my computer now. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but it's there. You know, you can see little fish swimming around and the whatever, but it's fun, pointless, yeah, kind of, but hey, you don't always have to mod for effective use of certain things, do you? I mean, don't always have to just be modding to put a radiator in because the case didn't fit one, which this one didn't. Anyway, so now I think I'm going to dive into some of the things that if I were doing this again, would I do some things differently? Yeah, I definitely would. There's some things with this that definitely show that it was one of my first modding projects. This was my first case window, the first time I ever did water cooling, and so it shows. But yeah, let's take it apart a little and kind of take a look at some of the things that I would do differently if I were going to do this again. So this is an Nzxt H2 and the reason I picked this case is because the interior was white. I didn't care as much about the exterior, but the interior was white, and that's what I wanted because I knew that this was going to be most effective if the inside of the case was white and as bright as possible, because again, normally you would have a really bright backlight behind the LCD in order to see it, but now you're just going to have what's inside the computer. So that is the motherboard that I'm using is an Asus Griffin, which is the Z87. It's got an i7 4770K in it. That was, I mean, 2013, so that's kind of what it was. But yeah, so I painted the armor on that white. I painted the ring on my CPU cooler white, and I painted the shroud on my graphics card white. I got an Nzxt power supply because it was also white. So basically I made everything in the case white with black accents. Managed to get 2 SSDs and a hard drive and a Blu-ray drive in there, and my XSPC, there's a 240mm radiator there, I think that's the AX series, an EK combo pump and reservoir, and it's just a CPU loop because this was my first water cooling loop, first time I was ever getting into water cooling, so that kind of shows. It was also 2013, it was kind of before the whole hardline craze hit, so that was something else too, that's why the flexible tubing. The window, as you can see here, is in the middle, and then I put a ring of these double density cool white LED strips around. And I only did it around 3 sides because when I first put one on the end here, I noticed that this up here, the drive cage and the radiator, were super bright compared to everything else. So I just decided to go with those 3 strips instead because it was just a little bit better light to use for this. Down here, this is why I went with the USB powered one, because now I just have this little USB connector, and that is a fan header, but I used it for the lights. And it's a really small controller, which is why I picked it specifically. You can do it with just a regular monitor, but it is going to be a lot bigger for the most part, so just keep that in mind. If you're thinking you want to do this mod, then you may want to try and make sure you get as small of a control board. I've also thought about just using a regular monitor, taking the panel apart, and then going on eBay and getting one of those cheap control boards, because those are usually a little bit smaller and powered by like 12 volt, which would be a lot nicer, because if it's powered by 120, you're going to have to try and find either a way to split out your power supply power before it goes into the power supply, tap off of that, or you're going to have 2 cables running out. And the other bonus to using the USB monitor is I just took and I used a little adapter here, and that goes to the USB header, which then turns it into a regular USB port, and then that's what this cable plugs into. So as you can see, the USB does not have to come out the back. There's no HDMI cable coming out the back. It's nice and clean, so I can literally have just this running. And you don't see the cable at all. You don't have to worry about any of that. See, look here, check this out. There's me. Hi, me. But yeah, so the the light that I have, studio light that I have set up on the other side of the room, you can see, you know, it's transparent. Where it's dark, you can't really see through it at all. In fact, we get a reflection because of all the light, but then where it's light, you can see through everything. But yeah, anyway, so I went with the USB because I figured, one, it'd be a lot easier to power, two, it'd be a lot cleaner because there would be no issues with trying to route an HDMI or DVI cable or anything like that. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. That's all I did, really. I just took apart a monitor, slapped it in between two pieces of acrylic, and then threw it in there. Some things that I would do different. I would try as hard as I could to find an IPS panel, because right now this one, I can't remember what it is, but it is not IPS. So the viewing angle is not that good. And why that is an issue is because when you get off angle, so like if you were low looking up at the case, if you were high up and looking down on the case, you really don't get the same effect, and same thing holds true for the side. So with this particular monitor, the best angle is going to be right, you know, right down the middle, kind of where you would normally sit to look at a monitor. So when I did this, I took two pieces of acrylic. So I have 1/4 inch acrylic on the inside, 1/16 inch acrylic on the outside here. So that's basically all I did to mount the LCD panel in there. And I took Modder's tape of the gods, MMPC Tech, go look that up. I can't remember, 4010 tape maybe, 3M, Scotch, same thing. Anyway, and I took that and that's what I assembled this with. I took it and here we go. So in between those two panels, there's some tape. And there's two layers of it, and that's what I use to effectively sandwich the panel in there. And the issue that I've had with that is you can kind of see it's starting to, come on, focus. There we go. It's starting to sag. So the tape at the bottom is starting to compress or something, and it's the monitor is just starting to fall down a little bit. It's not terrible yet from the outside. You can kind of start seeing this top edge, but most of it's behind the rubber trim that I put on the window. So it's not terrible, but it is an issue. So I would probably try to change that, the way that I mount the panel in the window in the future. Again, you know, it's one of those things, as I was trying to get this done for an event and didn't have a whole lot of time. So those were a couple of the things that if I were doing this again, I would do differently. So if you were thinking about doing this mod, you should. It's actually pretty easy. It's not that hard. The hardest part is probably, honestly, just mounting the LCD panel. You got to be careful because they are kind of fragile. They can crack, and then you're kind of stuck with finding another one. But you know, if you do decide that you want to do this, you know, let me know in the comments below. I do check all of those. I like responding. I just like encouraging people to do things themselves, you know. Modding is fun. I really enjoy it. And although the practicality of this particular mod, not that high, it is kind of cool. And you get people that haven't seen it before, they come up to you and say, man, what is going on with that screen? What is that? Is that a monitor or it's a window? What is it? And it's always kind of cool to have that conversation, you know, like, oh yeah, so I took a Dremel and I made a little cut, and then I took the jigsaw and I cut out the window here, and then I took apart an old LCD monitor and took the backlight off, so I just had this clear panel that you could still see images on, and then I made that the window, and I installed a custom water cooling loop. I painted everything on the inside white. It's kind of cool, you know. It's like, yeah, that's modding, you know, and I just love seeing other people do modding. I think it's fun, and I think more people out there would probably get enjoyment out of it if they just started, you know. But anyway, I also have a project log of this over on the modzoo.com. You can search for visible contrast. Probably just Google for visible contrast, the modzoo, or whatever it is, the modzoo.com : and then visible contrast, however you do all your searching tricks and stuff. But yeah, you know, people are like, oh, iBuyPower stole this idea from you, you know, blah, blah, blah. Did they? I don't know. They might have. I haven't seen anybody else do this until I did. You know, I never found it, and I looked for a while before I actually did this mod, you know, and I never found one, so I did it. And I've seen a couple people that did it, and a lot of them actually comment on some of my YouTube videos and mention that, hey, you know, I saw this and now I'm working on this. This is one of the issues I ran into. How'd you get around this? Blah, blah, blah. And I love helping people out like that, you know, so if you feel like doing this mod, go over and check one of those out. You know, I have a couple of YouTube videos, and I also have a ModZoo work log, and there's a couple of other work logs out there too. But just leave a comment if you do, because I like seeing people try this out. But I don't know. iBuyPower, did you copy it? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't really care that much. I just think it's kind of cool that at the end of the day, my mod is going to be on retail from a manufacturer. I didn't have anything to do with it. I'm not getting paid for it or anything, but it's still pretty cool because that was my idea 3 years ago. I actually went out and did it, and now it's going to be in retail. That's pretty sweet. Now, that's not to say that theirs won't be better. I mean, my system was probably better, my water cooling's better, my cable management's probably better, but, you know, I mean, that's just iBuyPower. But, I mean, they had a while to work on this. They had it at, I think, Computex 2016, and then again at CES 2017, and it's still not in retail. So I'm sure they got a more clear panel. They probably have a better way of mounting it because they have access to manufacturing, I'm sure. They went to a manufacturer and said, hey, can we get a transparent LCD that's more clear than just a standard LCD? Because this one has a polarizing filter on the inside that you need in order for it to be an LCD monitor. The problem is it makes everything a little bit fuzzy and a little bit darker, which I couldn't really do a whole lot about. I tried taking it off, but I got about an inch in and then it just cracked the LCD because the glue was too strong. So I'm sure they worked with manufacturers to get a better panel. And I'm sure that they have a better mounting system for the inside. But again, they have corporate resources. I don't. So, you know, I think theirs will probably be pretty cool. They do actually require you to run an HDMI cable out of the case and then plug it into your graphics card, which kind of sucks. Too bad they couldn't figure out a way around that. But I think it'll be kind of cool. Anybody that has one, it'll be a conversation piece. Is it practical? Nah, not really. But dang it, it's fun to have. Once again, I'm Mosquito, also known as Chris. This is Visible Contrast, my case mod from 2013, and that was a little bit of a recap of sort of the things I would change if I were to do this again. So thanks for watching. Leave any comments, questions, anything below, and I will check you later.